So we now know all school children aged 12 to 15 in England will be invited to get a coronavirus vaccine from next week.
This comes after the UK's chief medical officers recommended the rollout, saying the jab will help reduce disruption to education.
Professor Chris Whitty, the chief medical officer for England, said it was about weighing up the risks and the benefits.
Let's take you through some of those figures involved. There are around 3 million 12 to 15-year-olds right across the UK. England will offer jabs to children from next week, while a rollout is yet to be confirmed in Scotland, in Wales and Northern Ireland.
It's estimated that up to 30,000 infections could be prevented in England between October and March if enough children take up the offer of a jab. That in turn would save 110,000 days of missed face-to-face schooling, or 1 day for every 20 pupils.
Only one dose will be offered. The chief medical officers say that is related to the very rare risk of a condition called myocarditis, also known as inflammation of the heart. The Vaccines Minister mentioned that this morning. It's estimated there will be between 3 to 17 cases for every 1 million doses given. And symptoms of that include chest pains, shortness of breath and palpitations, but these are usually mild and short-lived. Our correspondent Zoe Conway has been getting reaction from teachers, from pupils and from parents.
Soon it won't just be lateral flow tests on offer in the sports hall. In the next few weeks, 12 to 15-year-olds will be able to get their first COVID vaccine in school. Bexley Heath Academy experienced severe disruption during lockdown. They welcome the idea of vaccinating their pupils.
What it provides is an opportunity to reduce any disruption that we see to schooling across the next academic year. Over the last 2 years, there's been unavoidable disruption to education. I think that any steps that we can take as a country to avoid that again, ensuring that students can remain in school learning, are important steps to take.
It's because we're at a young age, and I don't want to make a decision where maybe I might regret later in life, so I just want to take things at a pace where I know I understand.
It's very cloudy recently. A lot of people recite that source, another source. It's not one clear idea behind it. One person will say it's not safe, another will say it's safe, kind of contradictory.
So it sounds like you're a bit confused at the moment about what's the right thing to do.
Me and many other people, yes.
I definitely want to get the vaccine as soon as possible. I think it will really help me and the people around me if I try and stay as safe as possible.
The government is encouraging families to make the decision together over whether to vaccinate. But they say it's the child who'll have the final say. Will parents be comfortable with that?
I feel at the moment there's a lot of information that's open and available for young people, so I feel that they are able to make a decision based on, what they've learnt in schools, what they've read in the media.
I would never force them to have it if they didn't want it. I think if we give them the information that they need and then they can make their own decision, I would let my children make that decision.
But what if a family can't agree? Teaching unions are warning that schools are going to be put in a difficult position. Head teachers are wary of being stuck in the middle.
It is not the job of schools and academies up and down the country to make decisions about what's in the best interests of individual families. That's a decision that families need to come to together.
You're being put in a really difficult position, aren't you?
It's a challenging situation, but I think as a head teacher in a secondary school, I'm not going to be forcing anyone to do anything that they choose not to.
The fear of more empty classrooms, of more school lockdowns, that's what's driving this latest vaccination policy. And it's why the government says it will move with urgency to implement it. Zoe Conway, BBC News.
Well, there's so much to discuss, isn't there? We're joined now by Callum Semple, Professor of Child Health and Outbreak Medicine at the University of Liverpool, who we've met so many times. Lovely to see you, thank you. He also regularly attends SAGE meetings, but he's speaking today in a personal capacity. We can also speak to Nicola Mason, who's head teacher at a secondary school in Burntwood in Lichfield. As I say, there's so much to get to. Let's, Callum Semple, first of all, Professor, let's talk a little bit about this decision to have the 12 to 15-year-olds vaccinated, because there's been a lot of discussion and there's, various different points of view, but this is what the government has decided is going to happen in England. What's changed?
Well, first of all, the decision process took into consideration not just the individual risk on health, but the wider impact on disrupted education, and that's really important. So the Chief Medical Officers took advice from Royal Colleges and other experts, and they're taking into consideration the impact on educational opportunities that are lost and psychological damage by being isolated in all these problems. So this is a much bigger picture, bigger consideration. Interestingly, they didn't refer to the wider benefits on reducing transmission in the community. They were simply looking at the benefits to the children on improved education and health.
Okay, and we're talking to the Vaccines Minister this morning about the parents and young people and teachers trying to make an informed choice. And there has been quite a few messages coming through about the confusion around that. I mean, we'll talk about that in the school sector in a moment, but can you understand that from your perspective as well?
I can, and I hope that confusion doesn't result in increased hesitancy. This is still a very nasty virus. Okay, it is very rare for children to die from it, but we have seen over 2,000 hospital admissions and about 240 children admitted to critical care. So it's not necessarily trivial. It may not kill, but it's not nice. The vaccine is very effective. So if you take into consideration the balance of the tiny risk of myocarditis versus hospital admission and disrupted education, the balance is in favour of being vaccinated.
Let's talk to Nicola Mason, head teacher. And we've been speaking to the Vaccines Minister today. This, we understand, will be done in schools. We understand will start in some schools from next Wednesday. And what are your thoughts, first of all?
Well, I think we welcome the fact that parents have a choice and that it's an offer. I'm worried about the fact that some parents will look to our staff to give advice and guidance on whether to have the vaccine or not, and I think it does put staff in a difficult position at times. I've already had a letter last night from a legal company about threatening legal action in case we do decide to give advice or promote the vaccine. So it puts staff and school leaders in a tough position. And I think it's right that the information out there is that the NHS and the people who come in to administer the vaccines are the people that give the advice and do the mediation between companies.
We put that precise point to the Vaccines Minister this morning, and he said confidently that that discussion would take place between parents and the clinicians. But practically, I mean, parents have that relationship with teachers already, don't they? So you can see how teachers can get caught in the middle. Is that your fear?
They do, and the children are caught in the middle as well. We do have to remember that these are children. Unfortunately, I've got twins that have tested positive just this week, and the first thing that one of my twins, they're 8 years old, said, "Am I going to die, Mummy?" And these are children. It really reminded me that these are young people who have been exposed to so much disruption, and worry that getting into these sorts of disputes might upset them even further. And they come to school because it's their safe space. It's a place where they enjoy, where they learn, and I don't want to see parents feeling like they're stuck in the middle of a really difficult time where they have to choose.
And Nicola Mason, just kind of on a practical sense, how does it work? I mean, you presumably have some vaccines do you have vaccines anyway in your school? And are you used to the Vaccines Minister saying, you would get in contact with parents? Is that a system you already have in place?
Yeah, our local authority are really good with organising the vaccine programme. So we've already had a meeting to prepare for this announcement. So we're expecting that the COVID vaccine will piggyback onto the flu vaccine, which is already booked in school. So the dilemma, or I suppose logistical problem, will be that some children will consent to, or some families will consent to having the flu vaccine, some will consent just to the COVID vaccine, and some will consent to both. And it's the administrative task behind that I think shouldn't be underestimated, because there's so much organisation to do to get that right. And also it takes away spaces in school. So we've just packed away our test centre and given the sports hall back to our PE department, and now that's probably the space that's going to be used for such a big undertaking.
Professor, the schools have found themselves, haven't they, very much on the front line in all of this in terms of the measures they're putting in place, and not just this, the ventilation systems, the school halls being used not for sports lessons but for testing and all that sort of stuff. Why is it? I'm sure this is a question many viewers are asking. Why is it important to reach these 12 to 15-year-olds with this vaccine in terms of that winter plan the government are rolling out?
The biggest reason that these children have been identified is that if we have further outbreaks in schools, that will result in disruption to education. And the biggest harm, and I'm speaking purely in my personal capacity as a paediatrician, biggest harm is loss of educational opportunity and loss of social development. And that is a lifelong impact.
Can you also tell us as well, because we heard the Prime Minister saying that things are far from over with regards to coronavirus and COVID-19. So what looking into that winter, the winter plan, what would you say to us?
It's not just going to be coronavirus that's causing us trouble. The other seasonal viruses are going to come back. Hand hygiene, social distancing, reduced influenza. It got rid of influenza and many of the other viruses. Now that we're opening up society, we've got to have to live with not just COVID, but the flu will come back, RSV bronchiolitis will come back. So I think we're going to have a bit of a rough winter.
Yeah, and looking ahead as well to the booster vaccines for the over 50s. I mean, how much can you tell us about that, and how much difference would that booster vaccine make?
It'll make a difference for a few people that are frail and elderly and have high risks, where their immunity might just need a bit of boosting, and it's to try and give them an extra leg up and protect them.
And it's all, we're speaking to the vaccines minister at the end there about, our lockdown's going to be an option, and the government are in that position at the minute where they can't rule anything out because things can change so quickly. So much of it is based on our behaviour and how we interact with each other. When Louise talked about there, it's far from over. What do you think? And I know this is a difficult question for you to answer. What do you think this Christmas might look like compared to last Christmas? Is it going to be very different, do you think?
I really don't know that, and I won't stray into the policy area, but I can predict that the NHS is going to have a really tough time. It wouldn't surprise me if local directors of public health may be suggesting use of face masks in shops and public transport. That's the kind of thing that I would expect, is that some degree of regional common sense approach. If you see a high amount of virus in Liverpool or Manchester or Birmingham, then it wouldn't surprise me if there was local leadership in that area.
Nicola Mason, can I just pick up one of the thoughts from the professor there about the impact on education? Because, it has been a long time now, hasn't it, with lots of different things going on for the children. What kind of impact are you seeing on them?
It has been a big impact on the children, missing being face-to-face in school. And lots of schools, all schools are putting in programmes now to try to reintegrate children back. We've still got a lot of anxiety, a lot of mental health issues with children feeling really pressured because that they've missed, or in their mind they feel like they've missed some really crucial education. And we've got more cases in school at the moment than we ever have throughout the pandemic. We've probably never had more than 10 children that have tested positive at any one time. And we've currently got 31 that are confirmed positive and 26 that are awaiting PCR results. So the rates are going up in children. So it's important to try to keep them in school as much as we possibly can. And all these strategies help, but I think it's important we also have choice.
We've had so many questions coming in today. I wonder, are you getting that same sort of flood of questions from parents, and I imagine discussions with some of your pupils as well today about this new policy and how that's going to impact on the school and on, all the sort of facets of education, really?
Yeah, we're getting lots of questions. I think the best thing that we can do is make sure that parents are well informed, that they have access to the facts, they have access to the advice from the NHS and the government, so that they can make their own choices and that they know where to find that information. I just worry that we are going to be stuck in the middle, but again, it's about having the right information and making sure that parents feel like they're supported to make those decisions.
We asked the Vaccines Minister, Nicola Mason, about when the first 12 or 15-year-old might be vaccinated, and he said possibly next Wednesday. That's when he said it would start. Would you be ready for that?
We could be. We've got, like I say, a lot of schools will already have their flu vaccination booked in and have the logistics ready for that. So we're expecting our COVID vaccination to be at the same time as that, and we'll be ready for that as is towards the end of September.
OK, lots to think about, I'm sure, for many people watching this morning as well. Nicola Mason, thank you very much for your time. And Professor Callum Semple, it's always lovely to have you on the sofa.
Yeah, thank you very much.